So we are now officially going. Hello, friends. I can't see all of you. I can see a few of you, but great to have you here. My name is Mary Eintema, and I serve as the president of World Boston, which, as many, but maybe not all of you know, is a World Affairs Council and dedicated to the mission of fostering international engagement and global cooperation. And we are in extraordinary times. We are convinced that even so, or maybe especially so, this mission is really critical, and our dedication to citizen diplomacy remains critical, even if the way that we do citizen diplomacy has changed for the moment. Nobody is hosting groups of visitors and going around to meetings with peers and enjoying home hospitality right now, but we can stay engaged. So we have developed this series of webinars, which is called International Engagement in a Time of Isolation. And you'll be seeing announcements of these opportunities coming up throughout the month or coming months, depending on how long we're in this situation for. So I'll go ahead and introduce the star of our show today. That is Dave Fortier, and he is the founder and president of One World Strong, which he founded following the 2013 Boston Marathon bombings. He was running his very first marathon to support a friend with cancer and was injured by the first bomb. Since then, Dave has grown passionate for helping other survivors of terror and trauma, which motivated him to start One World Strong Foundation. Dave is a frequent collaborator with World Boston, and we first met in 2017 when we introduced him to a group from Manchester, UK, following the bombing there. Since then, he has connected with survivors and families in a reverse exchange with Manchester, as well as professionals in Strasbourg, France, through World Boston. He's also gone on to run in 13 additional marathons all over the world, including Boston, Paris, New York, Florida, and Washington, DC. In recognition of this work and Dave's devotion to citizen diplomacy, earlier this year, Dave received Citizen Diplomat of the Year award from our national affiliate, Global Ties US, in a Washington, DC ceremony. I'm also going to pre-introduce my colleague, Sarah Sibley, World Boston's Vice President for Citizen Diplomacy, who has overseen hundreds of groups of visiting citizen diplomats and is now overseeing this series of webinars as World Boston's latest venture in citizen diplomacy. So she'll be helping with questions and moderating. I think will, just a couple of quick housekeeping things. I think by now pretty much everybody is familiar with Zoom, but you are muted right now. But Sarah and also our colleague Josh Bruno, who's our manager of citizen diplomacy programs, will unmute you when you have questions. So with that, I think we should just go right ahead into Dave's presentation. Thanks, Dave.
There we go. I was hoping somebody would unmute me. Thank you, Mary. And thank you, Sarah, for arranging everything. And Mary, I appreciate the kind introduction. We could do a webinar on how I feel about World Boston, and we could tell stories, but that could be for another day. I do want to share with you guys just real quickly. First, thank you for taking the time to join us. We're excited to share what we're doing with the One World Marathon, share a little bit about what we do with One World Strong and how we even got to the One World Marathon, of which World Boston plays a big role. So I'm looking forward to telling you guys about that. But one of the things that I've been doing on these webinars, so we've been working with folks overseas for a couple of years now. So we've been doing webinars, and I'll tend to take pictures, screenshots, either on the computer, screenshots with my phone, So I've kind of set it up that way for you guys today. So please feel free to take a screenshot. You know, you can do notes on it or whatever. But I wanted to start with how One World actually came together. We were, as Mary mentioned, I was running my first marathon for a friend with cancer, and as I came onto the street on Boylston Street in Boston 7 years ago, I was telling myself I would never do another one of those crazy things again. But as she mentioned, we've gone on to do a few. So when everything happened, when the bombings happened in Boston, my injuries were not severe. I had some shrapnel damage and some hearing loss. But for me, it's what I saw happen in Boston. It's what I saw happen immediately after. I saw people rushing in to help. I saw we saw lives being saved that day in the medical tent. Then in the hospital, we had these amazing visits by a group of veterans, Marines, most of them from the Semper Fi Fund. These are folks that had been injured in Iraq and Afghanistan and knew the type of injuries that many of us would have. And they made it a point to come to Boston and visit us. And it was on those visits that many of us realized that we were going to be okay. And they also used movement as a way to heal. So whether it was skiing or whether they were doing running events or swimming, whatever it might be, triathlons, they really promoted sport. And a lot of us were able to tune into that very quickly. And we saw those relationships really beginning to develop. I think some of you may know that are from Boston. Lots of celebrities visited folks in the hospitals and rehab centers, and those were great. They're fun visits and fun pictures. But the folks from the Semper Fi Fund made it really clear that they were there for the long term, whether we needed to speak with somebody next week or in 3, 4, or 5 years. And I can say to this very day, there's not a week that goes by that many of us here in Boston that were impacted the day of the bombings are not connected to some of those folks within that organization. So what that led us to do, realizing that those relationships were really strong, utilizing sport, utilizing movement, we thought, how do we kind of pay that forward? How do we do this? And it was the Orlando nightclub shootings in Florida that really changed everything for us. We went looking for an organization that would allow us to really what it is it's a platform to connect with others that had similar injuries. We wanted to do for those folks in Orlando, Florida, that the Marines came to Boston and did for us. And we went looking for a platform internationally to do that. And we couldn't find one that existed anywhere. So what was going to be volunteering a couple hours a month is now volunteering about 100 hours a week to what we do. But personally, I've never been happier doing what I do. I wake up each morning excited about what the day brings because I get to speak with folks like yourselves. So we can talk about One World a little bit in the questions and answers, but I wanted to talk with you guys today about just building resiliency, being isolated as many of us are now, and how important it is to connect with others. And a lot of that really dovetails into what many of us experienced after the bombings in Boston, is that isolation, and what it was like to be able to connect with others around something. So this all comes back to World Boston and to Sarah and to Mary. And it's an event. The picture that you can see in the middle, I was speaking at an event in Boston to a group of folks that had come over from the Middle East and North Africa. And I was all excited to tell them about the One World Strong Foundation and what we were building. And the idea at the time was that each year, at the time of the marathon, we wanted to bring people that had been injured by extremist or terrorist events globally. We wanted to be able to bring people to Boston to experience Boston and get to know others. And the the group was, they were very kind. I remember I was wearing earphones because there was, Sarah, I think we had 3 translators in the room that day, or at least 2. So as I was speaking to everybody, some heads were nodding, and there was some conversation, and some couple folks were shaking their heads, and I didn't realize why. And we started talking, just before this picture was taken, and they said, that's really great that you guys want to bring people to Boston, but we're from countries where it's very difficult to get people out of the country. Some of the countries that we were talking about helping, we wouldn't even be able to bring people to the U.S. And actually almost impossible to bring them here. So we started talking and using the whiteboard, and the whiteboard led us to what became the One World Marathon. So instead of bringing people to Boston to experience the marathon, the idea was that we would take the marathon out to everybody else, and allow people to participate with others. And the idea really grew. It was, all concept. It was, how do we do this? How do we make this happen? Because our budget was, I think, maybe $3 or $4 above zero at the time. And it was one of those things for me that just really started to resonate and think, okay, if we can connect people virtually, very similar to how we're doing today, to rally around a common goal, in this case, the goal being complete a marathon together. Now, as Mary mentioned, I've run several marathons, but by no means do I recommend anybody go out and do that. As a matter of fact, there's lots of other ways to stay healthy. But combining miles and combining steps and combining and working as a team, you can complete 26.2 miles, which is the distance of a marathon. So we had survivor groups in many different places around the world already. And some of these groups were in Jordan. We even had started to get to know some people in Syria, in Turkey, Pakistan, throughout different spots in Africa, several places in Europe, and obviously here in the US. So we had people that we could connect with already. And we started coming up with some ideas on, do we create a website? And some of the folks were, laughing that this would become kind of a match.com for people that wanted to run and do sports. And that's obviously not what we wanted it to be. But what it materialized into was, in 2019, we had worked with a couple of schools in Europe, and one in the Middle East. And those schools started connecting with other schools so that students could work with each other and connect with each other. And we thought, okay, this would be the year to give this a try. We came up with a rudimentary website. We had, which was then really expanded upon by parents that we had met in the UK, that their children and some of their family members had been impacted in the Ariana Grande bombings there in Manchester in the UK. And they helped us develop an even better website that could help capture some of the information, could help lead people to the right place. Because I do know some of you folks on the call here today, you guys will know that I am not very good at social media whatsoever. I'm very lucky to have 2 daughters that can handle some of that stuff for us. But what we saw happen, we wanted people to come together. So we used the website, we used existing social media, things like WhatsApp and Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and people were able to connect that way simply by using hashtags. And the pictures that you see here are all from the time frame of what we did in 2019, what we called our first One World Marathon. It was a 4-day event. It actually started in Amman, Jordan, at the site of the Dead Sea Marathon. And then 4 days later, it ended as the last person crossed the Boston Marathon finish line. And over the course of about 3 weeks, maybe 4, before this all started, before the Amman Marathon started, we ended up with over 7,000 people from 64 different countries registering, connecting with us, letting us know where they're from. And by the end of the Boston Marathon weekend, or the end of Boston Marathon Monday last year, when we started doing the tally, we had completely lost track of the schools, because the schools had registered as one school, so it registers as one person, but actually had 500 students or 300 students, or in one case over 700 students participating in events connected to the One World Marathon concept of bringing people together. And the school participation was really amazing to us, because the kids, when teachers would explain to the students what the concept of the One World Marathon was, it's people coming together from around the world to connect as a group to complete 26.2 miles together. And it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter your background, you just needed a way to go out and move. And that moving did not need to be running, although in many cases it was. We also had people that wanted to go out and a horseback ride. That was their form of therapy. And so it made them feel good. So we said, yeah, sure, let's count it. And we also had people that wanted to swim. But the one that really sticks with me is that we had a group of seniors from New Jersey that wanted to line dance to count their steps and turn it into mileage to participate with their team. So we were actually able to put that together. I forget who did the math, but it added up and they were able to reach their 26.2 miles. And that was it was actually a lot of fun to watch. And I should have thought to post the video here so you could see it. But I wanted to show the pictures. And these are just 3 pictures of over 100 that we had come into. The website had come into teachers, and they were able to share them with us. And it really was amazing to see what kids could put together when they saw the concept of people coming together to complete something. And these are just 3 examples out of 100 to share with you guys today. And then the kids that are in the upper right-hand corner on your screen, spelling out One World Strong, the kids in the left-hand corner with their One World Strong banners. And then I also share that all those kids on the right-hand side going up those steps, they all created their own bib numbers for an event that they did, which was really pretty neat. And then the school in the bottom in the middle is one here outside of Boston that came together, and they had hundreds of students participate. So it was really great to see these folks come together. It was great to see schools come together. I'll talk a little bit about that toward the end as to what we're doing with some of those schools coming together from this project. But again, last year we had over 7,000 people from 64 different countries participate. So really what it's all about for us is connecting people, right? Uniting people around a common goal and building resiliency. These are just some pictures from those events that took place over that weekend last year. The one I wanted to share with you guys and spend a couple minutes on, and we can even circle back to it if there's any questions, is when we talk about connecting communities, it's kind of that peer-to-peer humanitarian diplomacy piece. And I wanted to share a personal story with you guys. This is somebody that I had met in Amman, Jordan. So the picture on your screen that's on the top left, her name is Rola. She was paralyzed in a hotel bombing in Amman, Jordan. I had a pleasure to meet Rola and her family through our embassy in Amman. Rola loved what we do as One World, connecting survivors, allowing them to communicate with each other, to kind of share in that healing process for them. Rolla has since gone on to visit others. The picture on the right is us visiting a gentleman who was partially paralyzed in a bombing just a couple of years ago in Amman now, actually a year and a half ago. That's his mother by his bedside. And his mother in Arabic told Rolla that our visit was the first time that she had seen her son smile in 3 weeks. And Rolla is an amazing person. The picture you see there with the camel in the background, that was Rolla and when we participated together in the Dead Sea Marathon in Amman. That was the start of the One World Marathon. And she had such a great time doing that and participating in sport again. She had always been a very active person. She was actually in the military before her injury. And the celebration that took place for her and for all the others there that day was really quite amazing and really impacted her. And being a part of the One World Marathon, she didn't even tell me this until recently, but she started working out to be able to move her own wheelchair on her own. Her goal is to move it 100 meters. And because of her military background in Jordan, she was able to join and be a part of the Jordanian Invictus team. Unfortunately, the Invictus Games have been postponed, so she won't be able to do that this year, but she will remain on the team. But Rolla is also somebody that is able to connect with other survivors and helps to inspire them to move forward. But that's my own personal example of being involved with the One World Marathon, of where Rolla has come from to now wanting to be a member of the Invictus team in Jordan. So it's really amazing for all of us to see people moving forward. And I could tell you guys stories about students all day long, but that one was a personal story, but kind of the details behind, what is the One World Marathon? So I don't typically put a lot of words on slides, and actually Sarah and Mary might be laughing now because typically there are no words in the middle of my slides. But I wanted you guys to be able to take a screenshot of this if you wanted it, of what the One World Marathon is. It is simply a team building event. And we ask people to come together to complete a marathon, to complete 26.2 miles. And it doesn't matter whether you do it with 2 people. Actually, we had one person do it by themselves last year, which is fine too. But we encourage people to team up. So it could be 2, it could be 10, it could be 50. It really doesn't matter how many people. With what has happened this year, the One World Marathon has been postponed because the 3 events that it was designed around this year, those 3 events were postponed till the fall. So we've had to change the schedule around a bit. I'll talk about that also. But really what we want is for people to come together and have a good time. And we encourage people to they can build their teams with anyone. You can build your team with kids, you can build them with adults. We had somebody last year that was 98 years old that participated. Her goal was to go out and walk around her house, and that's what she did. And you combine that into the total for your team, and you end up with 26.2 miles. And again, you can see if you're reading through these, the line dancers that participated last year. But really, it's great for companies, schools, sports clubs. We've had some interest from a couple of clubs here in Boston. Over the course of the last month, as we've all been confined and isolated, a lot of the clubs have started posting videos of workouts. So we're going to team up with a couple of those. One World's going to team up with at least one for sure, and maybe 2 organizations that will post videos for people where they can, whether it's sit-ups, push-ups, core workouts, where people aren't in densely populated communities, they can still go out for walks, they can still go out for a run. As long as everybody's being safe about how they're doing that, that's perfectly fine. What we really encourage, though, are for folks to reach out across to different countries, and doing that kind of gives you a different perspective on culture, what different challenges are in different places. We've got a school here just outside of Boston in Newburyport, connected with a school in Cardo, Somalia. And they're high school students that have started working together. They'll all be part of a team together, actually multiple teams, because lots of them like to go a different distance. But that's the type of thing that we encourage. We encourage not just students to reach out to others, but also old folks like myself to reach out and connect with other people as well. And it really builds just a better understanding of what we're all facing. And especially with COVID-19 and isolation, we in the States and Europe are not the only ones isolated. Lots of folks in the Middle East and Asia and Africa, they're isolated as well. And connecting with people and understanding the challenges in these different places has really been eye-opening to me. I learn something new every week that we've been doing this. So the one thing I also wanted to stress was with your team. A lot of people had fun last year with putting a lot of family members together, and then it came down to, well, now we've got too many people, and we've literally had 25 people now only everybody can do 1 mile or a little over 1 mile. So it's perfectly fine to have a team that's big, but you can do multiple marathons. And you can have a team that you guys could go out and do. One weekend you could team up, or a week you could team up and do. You could do 26 miles. We had people yesterday that were out doing it. They called it a practice run. They couldn't do the Boston Marathon, so they had teamed up to do 26.2 miles on what would have been Marathon Monday. So the when and where. The One World Marathon begins on Monday, September 14th. And it actually starts this year with the Boston Marathon. Last year it ended with it. So this year it starts with it. It'll then continue through the London Marathon. London changed their marathon to October 4th this fall. So we're going to continue it through the London Marathon. And then the marathon in Jordan actually takes place on Friday, October 9th. So that's when it will end this year. So instead of 4 days, we actually have 26 days due to a global pandemic. We're able to stretch this.
So it's exciting for us to
you guys. The experiences of others, and those experiences can be posted online. Our goal is to have people posting online about their journey through this, about building a team, about where that team is being built and who they're building it with. And that's really the exciting point for many of us, because you get to see these stories. You get to hear about what other people are doing. And for us, that's a big piece of it, right? Because you get to learn, and you get to have a better understanding of what some of the challenges are that others face. And I can guarantee you that you will, I guess I can almost guarantee you that you're going to make new friends participating in an event like this. So how do we do it, right? Teams can connect. You can start connecting on teams now, right? Families, friends, schools, associations. We use existing platforms, okay? There's nothing special. It's WhatsApp, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's Messenger, you name it. So yes, there could be multiple teams. You can be on as many different teams as you want. Myself, right now, I'm on 5 different teams on 3 different continents, which is actually a lot of fun. We use existing social media. For most of us, it's WhatsApp that we use, and we're able to connect. We're able to connect folks in many different places. So with me clicking too many slides here, let me go back one. One of the things that I did want to mention, and thank you, Mary, for reminding me of this. Guys, this is not a fundraiser by any stretch of the imagination. I should have mentioned that up front. This is just for people to go out and have a good time and to connect with. That's it. We use our One World Strong platform as a way for people to do that. And a big piece of that as to why we do it is it allows people to connect. And the more that you can connect and understand other people, my true belief in that is, there becomes a lot less extremist activity when people really understand what others face, the challenges other people face, as well as realizing that most people all believe in the same thing. They want to be healthy. They want their family to be healthy. They want to do good. I still believe in all the things that I've seen and all the things that I've been through. I still believe there's much more good in the world than there is bad. And this is an event that was put together really just for people to have a good time with and to have fun. There's no sign up for it, for a fundraising commitment. There's nothing like that. And consequently, there's no medal at the end of it other than a virtual medal that you can tag to yourself. We do use hashtags for this, and that's another way to find people globally to communicate with. This is the way that we did it last year. We used the hashtag OWM. We'll use the hashtag OWM 2020 this year, and a hashtag Stronger Together. If you're finding people with those using those hashtags, or you're searching those, you'll find people that are looking to connect on Teams. Now that's one way to do it. Another way simply is you can leave a message on our website and we'll help you get connected. There'll be a blog. We're putting together a new website now. So if you went to oneworldmarathon.org, you would actually come to a website. You'll actually see several of the sponsors that we have. And these are not financial sponsors. These are folks that are believers in what we do as One World. There is no financial sponsorship for the One World Marathon. It's just a way for people to participate and have a good time. And that's what we encourage people to do, whether it's paired up in groups, a couple people doing it, or whether it's 50 people doing it, or whether a school goes out and creates an event for themselves or connects with another school. There are no rules to it other than having a goal of 26.2 miles as a team. So again, you can connect through the blog on our One World Marathon website. You can connect on our website that is the oneworldstrong.org or oneworldmarathon.org. Either way, you can find us. There's also a downloadable item on our oneworldstrong.org website. It's actually a PDF of the event that you can download and share with others. So the big thing for us is to go out and have some fun with it. Let us know what you're doing with it. Post to our website, post to Facebook, post to our Instagram, Twitter. We've got a YouTube channel as well that we'll be sharing videos with from different places around the world. We actually had students last year that came up and produced their own music video of what the One World Marathon means to them. And we're going to post that up on YouTube probably later today. So you'll be able to visit that. But we want to become very active with some of the social media. And I thank many of the students that we're working with for doing that for us. So what I wanted to do at this point is really just kind of open this up. I believe Sarah and Mary, that was the plan, was kind of to open things up for questions for people. So please feel free to ask questions. And if you're not comfortable asking a question here, You can also find me this way. Many of you already know how to connect with Sarah and Mary, so you can also ask them questions as well.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Really appreciate that for providing such an overview of this exciting and fun initiative of citizen diplomacy. Dave's right. For the next 15 minutes or so, we can take some questions that some of you may have. We could do that in two ways. You can raise your hand. It's a little blue hand icon on Zoom, and you will be able to be unmuted by me and ask your question aloud to Dave. Or if you prefer, you can type your question into the chat box and I can read your question aloud for you. We'll try our best to get to all the questions, see how much time we have. We do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if there are too many to get in together now, as Dave mentioned, and as is, should be on your screen right now, you do have his contact information if you have more marathon questions for him after this webinar has concluded. So if anybody has any questions, we can get started. See, we have one question from Liam Martin. I will unmute you, Liam.
Hi. Hi. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
All right. My question is, how can we find others who are interested in making a team? Maybe we're interested, but we got to kind of put together, find a couple other people. What strategies have you seen that have been successful?
So the most successful ones I've seen have been really being driven by family, friends, and work. We saw last year, we had a couple of companies that participated where they had, whether they had manufacturing overseas or had distribution overseas, they were connecting with folks that way. And they built such a big team that they had to then split it up into a couple more. But it was fun to watch them do that. The other way to do it is searching the hashtags that I had mentioned. So on the screen at the very bottom, if you use the hashtag OWM2020, you could search it that way, or Stronger Together. That would be another way to find folks. You could also post to our website or post to any of our social media, and we can help you get connected that way.
Great, thank you, Dave. Any other questions?
Actually, Sarah, I just got a text.
Yes.
It's okay if I so it's actually a good question. Where were the most people? Where did most people participate from last year in the 2019 one that we did? So it was interesting because when we went back and looked at it, there were a lot of events put together for the One World Marathon last year, and it was actually students and youth school groups in Jordan that was the biggest, which personally I thought was great because Jordan was one of the countries that was visiting us in Boston when we first came up with the concept for the One World Marathon. So Jordan was at the top. France was up there. The UK was up there. The US, we had a lot of students here as well. And then the country that I was very excited about was Somalia, rounded out the top 5. And what was really amazing about the participation from Somalia, they would send us videos of them practicing for the One World Marathon. They were posting videos. These are college students. And what really struck me was that one of the videos came to me with an explanation that, the video that you're seeing, we had to, I could see people on some of the buildings, and those people were actually watching for Al-Shabaab. which is a terrorist organization in Somalia. So they were actually trying to protect their events. They had people out watching to make sure that the area was safe. Those are things we don't deal with here or think to deal with here. That's something that they did, but they felt so strongly about participating that they went out and watched out for each other so that they could have that involvement. So when I think about the organization, when I think about the countries that participated or have the most participation, a country like Somalia or a state like Somalia that participates where, it's not necessarily safe to go out and do something like this. They still felt compelled to reach out and be teams with other people.
Thank you, Dave. We have a question from another Sarah, from Sarah Skiri, who thanks you for your time today. And she asked, could you please provide a little more detail on how using WhatsApp might work? Are they public groups or private groups where the workouts are shared? I work for a home for children in Peru and thinking about how we might be able to form a few teams between the children and schools here in the US.
Cool. So WhatsApp teams typically just form groups. So for instance, with WhatsApp, and maybe there is a public function to it, but that would be one of the things I'm not certain of. Maybe there's somebody here smart enough to tell me that. But the WhatsApp groups that I'm a part of, we have one in Cameroon. We have one in Nigeria. We actually are just starting one in Niger. We have two in Somalia, one in Turkey, and then one that I'm pretty sure we're going to be able to make this work in Syria this year through WhatsApp. Last year we had problems with Syria. We were being blocked by the government. So hopefully this year, so far, everything has been positive on the social media front for us. So we should be able to connect there. But the only groups that are on WhatsApp right now are private groups that people have formed together. I just saw another one get started today in Switzerland, combining with some folks. I think it was Norway or the Netherlands. I can't remember right now. But it's that's how I've seen it work on WhatsApp. It's just people connecting through that platform.
Let's see. Looks like we have one more question here from Megan McCarthy. I'll unmute you, Megan.
Hi, Dave. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Megan.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. I was just wondering if you've received any useful feedback from any of the previous marathons from teams on maybe things that have worked really well for them, something like that.
Yeah, so we've incorporated what's worked well for them. The newest one that we're going to have is the blog. So kind of a running, kind of an update as to what's going on, different ways to find people. There's a lot of folks out there much smarter than me on how to use social media for something like this. So we want folks to be able to post things that are working. We have looked at putting a website together that would actually match people up, that you could go in and we could do some matching. We experimented with that last year and actually invested in a little bit of it. But it didn't work out because the investment that we need to make is probably closer to $50,000 to $60,000, which is way outside of what we can do, and really what we're centered on doing. Maybe somewhere down the road we could find a way to do that with people, but to do it right, you need to build a very robust website, and the data protection laws in different countries and different areas. We would need to get attorneys involved and all kinds of paperwork to do these things, which is just not what we focus on. But the things that did work, the website worked, just the contact at oneworldstrong.org worked. We're able to make connections in some of the simplest ways. And it's very interesting. Once you get one person connected to another person, those two tend to be able to be pretty good at finding other ways to do it. And much better than we could do. But we do know there are much sleeker and fancier ways to connect people. It's just those tend to be sleek and fancy like a car. it's not one of the cars that we're going to be able to afford right now. But yeah, good questions, guys. Thank you.
I'm seeing one more question from Lily Terrason Honeysett. Lily, I will unmute you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, perfect. All right, so I just want to say thank you for the information on One World Marathon. And my question is, what has been the most unique way you've seen people get involved in the marathon so far?
So the non-unique way would be the line dancing. I think there were 40 people doing it at a senior home. It was really pretty cool to watch. The other thing that I thought was really cool, we had a student at the school created a track and field event and created ways to measure different distances of whether it's a high jump or hurdle or whatever. I think they even had javelin throwing in there as a way to measure it. But the point is that it's not all about running, right? This isn't a pure marathon by any sense of, or any stretch of the imagination. It's simply a way to get people out and get them moving and using movement as a way to connect. Horseback riding, I thought, was actually a pretty cool way for people to do it as well. I will say this, we did reach out to NASA last year through a connection to see if we might be able to get the shuttle or the lab involved. And then the mileage for the event really would have been literally out of this world. But there's a lot of neat ways people have done it. We had people actually combine over the course of 4 days. They did it all on treadmills. I never asked why they'd want to do that, because a treadmill to me is a form of workout torture. But they combined on treadmills. I had somebody tell me they were going to do one of those. I can't even think of the name of the machine right now. I'm sorry, I can't think of it. It was one of the machines. Like a rowing machine, but there's a certain name for it. But they were combining rowing, essentially rowing miles, which was pretty cool. So yeah, many different ways to do it. We had kids hike mountains. Students were hiking different mountains here in New England, and a couple of them combined in the Alps as well. So that was pretty cool to see.
Very creative.
Yeah, it's fun. It really is. I mean, and again, the whole idea is just to get out and have some fun with it. You know, you don't need to commit to anything. Obviously, if you commit to your team. But again, as we had mentioned before, there's no fundraising component to this. There's no ask of this other than to go out, connect, and have fun doing it. And we truly hope that you learn something about somebody else, about a culture, and just to be able to give some different perspectives on things.
Absolutely. Well said, Dave. I'm not seeing any further questions, not in the chat or any raised hands. So perhaps we will conclude there. Dave, maybe if you want to put up your slide again with your contact information in case anyone suddenly thinks of one.
I do, for the folks that are here, I do want to say one thing. I know when I was talking to Sarah and Mary the other day, they told me that they're going to have some cooking webinars coming up. So I wanted to give them a plug for that because I'm personally quite interested in that. I tend to cook out of a microwave. That's not necessarily the way it should be done. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. But my contact information is here on the screen, guys. You can reach out to me 24/7. If people have questions about what we do as an organization, the peer-to-peer networks that we work with globally. You know, we work with folks that have been injured, like folks that were injured here in Boston. We work with families that have lost loved ones, and we do a lot of work with first responders because first responders tend to be left out of that healing or that recovery from trauma. So, Mary, Sarah, thank you both for having us, and we hope that everybody here will go out, form a team, and let us know what you're doing. Let us know how many people participated. Let us know what you did. And most of the ways we do that is we find what you've posted online, but you can also send it to us. So thank you all very much. If you get a chance, check out our YouTube channel later today or tomorrow. We'll have that song up that I mentioned. It's actually pretty neat. I have it on my playlist when I go running now.
Thank you, Dave. Really appreciate it. And thank you for being with us today. As you know, we're very proud of the remarkable collaboration that has emerged between yourself and some of our international program alumni. Like you said, we will be having more of this series coming your way. So thank you to everyone today for attending and for your engagement and interest in citizen diplomacy. This new series called International Engagement in a Time of Isolation will be happening nearly weekly. We are looking to do some culinary diplomacy and a Mexican event on Cinco de Mayo as well. So we will be announcing these events one by one on World Boston social media platforms, which is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So please follow us there if you're not already. And we will also continue to send event announcements by email. So if you're not subscribed, you can subscribe on our website. So thank you very much again, and we all wish that you remain in good health and in good spirits. Take care. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.